Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Monday, October 4th, 2010. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the U.S. It's 4:30 p.m. in London and Hamilton. It's 12:30 and in Mexico City, 10:30. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL Instant Mail address is CATEX-TV. On this date in 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik. What was Sputnik? It was a little ball about 60 pounds in weight. It had a small transmitter that beeped, and it went into orbit around the Earth for about 2 weeks until the battery died. And boy, did it get the West in a panic. In fact, there are a number of books written saying that the whole rise and the emphasis on science in the West and in the United States in particular was due to a feeling of inferiority caused by that 66-pound ball. Now to our main news. Well, we've been talking about the terror alert in France lately, and it seems that a number of other people have picked up on it. Japan joined the U.S., which acted yesterday, in warning of a possible terrorist attack by Al-Qaeda or other groups in Western Europe. Yesterday, the American State Department urged Americans to be cautious when using public transport or visiting popular tourist sites in Europe. And this morning, the Japanese Foreign Ministry in Tokyo urged Japanese to do the same. European authorities, especially in the UK, France, and Germany, have tightened efforts to keep the public safe in the wake of warnings by officials that the terrorism threat is high. Last week, a Pakistani intelligence official said that 8 Germans and 2 British brothers were at the heart of an Al-Qaeda-linked terror plot against European cities. The official said that the suspects remain hiding in northern Waziristan, a Pakistani tribal region. Security officials say terrorists may be plotting attacks in Europe similar to the 2008 shooting spree in Mumbai. The American former Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff on the Sunday talk shows yesterday said that Americans in Europe should, quote, not walk around with the American flag on your back. Very helpful advice. Well, as we predicted when Ed Kelly pulled the Liberty Mutual IPO, AIG has no choice but to plow ahead. They've now been forced to reduce its valuation for the Hong Kong initial public offering of AIA, its Asian unit, in order to win the commitment of Kuwaiti Sovereign Wealth Fund. AIG had initially planned to go out with the IPO at a level that might hit about 37 billion US. Pursuant to the Kuwaitis' pushback, it's now going to go out at 32 billion US. That's about a 14% drop. This is according to the FT. Other sources, specifically the Wall Street Journal, said that the offering could only be valued at up to about $30.5 billion. AIA was forced to lower its valuation to secure a $1 billion commitment from the Kuwaiti fund. Supposedly, according to the FT, a number of Hong Kong tycoons are among other big investors that have signed up for cornerstone stakes. Well, in the United States, Verizon Wireless announced this morning that it's going to pay out about $90 million in overcharges to cell phone customers because they were improperly charged for inadvertent web access or data usage over several years. The Federal Communications Commission acted on this. Verizon said last night that most of the 15 million customers affected will receive a credit in their October or November bills. Customers no longer with Verizon would get refund checks. Verizon said that they're sorry about the problem. Ballantyne, McKeon, and Sullivan, BMS, is making a U.S. move. They've hired John Faustman from Guy Carpenter to head up the expansion of its reinsurance services in the U.S. Faustman is going to run a new BMS office to be set up in Philadelphia. It's going to be offering coverage for P&C, casualty clash, and workers' compensation. Faustman had been with Carpenter for 19 years. And in Athens yesterday, actually this morning, the Chinese Prime Minister Wen Jiabao met with George Papandreou, his counterpart, the Greek Prime Minister, and China has offered to buy Greek government bonds in a show of support for Greece, whose debt burden has pushed Europe into crisis. Wen said that China would double its trade ties with Greece over the next 5 years and, quote, will undertake a great effort to support Greece to overcome the crisis. Wen said during the visit that China will address European concerns over its investment rules and copyright violations, and he also urged the EU to recognize China's full market economy status and relax restrictions that the EU has placed on high-tech Chinese imports. The stock market in the U.S. is down about 62 points right now. We'll go to a word from our sponsors.
Every day, the world wakes up and goes to work, pursuing the unique opportunities that lead the global economy forward. The complexity and close connectivity of today's global marketplace is a true modern miracle that can create unparalleled success. But it takes confidence, passion, innovation, and understanding.
Enabling opportunity.
Protecting capital.
Engineering innovation.
Investing in your future.
Ensuring continuity.
Finding the right balance.
It takes Aon.
Design for peace.
Our producer Frank Mazzio just reminded me that this evening on CNN at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer, also known as client number 9 in the prostitution ring that brought his disgraced resignation as governor of New York about, is reappearing with his own television show, only in the United States. Well, the Insurance Day has run today approximately 5 pages of articles on Lloyd's coverholder business. And I say this and will fully disclose the fact that our sister company CATEX has a bordereau management system that should be looked at by anybody concerned about coverholder business. One of the nuggets of information that came out in the articles today is from Peter Montanaro here from Lloyd's, is that Lloyd's is set to receive its first coverholder application from Russia. According to Montanaro, who's the head of delegated authorities at Lloyd's, there has been interest now from Russia. This comes amid continued discussions about a potential Lloyd's representative office in Moscow. CEO Richard Ward at Lloyd's confirmed recently that there was some appetite for a Moscow office, and it was possible that Lloyd's would put a representative on the ground there. Ward's subsequent comments last week that it's not necessary to always have offices on the ground as part of Lloyd's strategy is seen by many as a further indicator that the coverholder route in Russia is going to be central to the growth of the Lloyd's business there. 5 core coverholder markets for Lloyd's are the United States, England, Australia, Canada, and Italy, but interest is growing from other sources. According to Montanaro, the coverholder app from Russia is still undergoing due diligence from the sponsoring managing agent, but it is expected to be submitted in the coming weeks. Montanaro also confirmed that the first coverholder approvals for Poland have recently been given. Just so you know what we're talking about, Lloyd's has 2,622 existing cover holders that collectively combine for about 30% of the market's revenue. That's a big number. Well, this morning a Swiss government panel proposed rules that would require the country's two banks, UBS and Credit Suisse, two big banks, UBS and Credit Suisse, to hold more capital in reserve than international competitors. This would be a method to provide extra insurance against a catastrophic failure. The rules would require approval by the Swiss parliament. They address concerns by the Swiss National Bank, the government, and others that a severe crisis at Credit Suisse or Union Bank of Switzerland could prove more than the nation of 7.8 million people could bear. Iceland, anyone? The balance sheet of the two banks are 5 times the size of the Swiss economy. According to the Commission, given their size, referring to the two banks, it cannot be ruled out that these big Swiss banks are potentially TBR, or too big to be rescued. Credit Suisse and UBS said in statements that they will be able to meet the requirements, which would have them, by the end of 2018, maintain low-risk reserves equal to 10% of their total assets. That's a higher reserve requirement than was proposed for global banks last month by the Basel Committee on Bank Supervision, or Solvency, or Basel III. Well, good for the Swiss. If those two went down, that would be a terrible situation. Well, this is sort of unusual news. Iraq, the oil ministry of Iraq, has announced a significant increase in its oil reserves. Pushes the country now into 3rd place in terms of reserves worldwide. Officials said this morning that extensive studies now show proven reserves standing at 143 billion barrels. This is a 30% increase from the previous estimate of 115 billion barrels. Iraq then overtook Iran to gain 3rd place in terms of oil reserves, according to data released by OPEC. In 2009, Iraq signed a dozen deals with multinational oil companies in the hope of boosting production. The new reserve figure was reached with the help of international companies working at the 12 fields in Iraq. There was a deadly train crash in Indonesia over the weekend. A train crashed into another parked at a railroad station in central Indonesia at the town of Petarukan. Early Saturday morning, killed at least 36 people. Rescuers spent hours searching through the wreckage for survivors. A train from Jakarta plowed into the rear of the train that was sitting in the station at Petarukan, which is a coastal city. It took almost an hour for rescue workers and ambulances to arrive at the scene. In Taiwan, yesterday, no deaths or injuries were reported in a fire at a plant operated by Nanya Plastics, which is part of the Formosa Plastics Group. The government of Taiwan has ordered the shutdown of the plant and has given Nanya a fine of 1 million Taiwanese dollars due to the environmental damage it caused. The plant yesterday in Taibao City caught fire. It's a fairly big plant. It's 33,000 square meters in size. By 4 p.m. yesterday, the fire, which had begun at 8:30 in the morning, was still burning out of control. The president of the combined company, Nanya, appeared at the plant after taking a high-speed railroad trip there to apologize. And it's thought that the fire is under control right now, but they're still assessing the damage. Well, this isn't news to you. If you're in London, there was a transit strike this morning. Commuters scrambled to find a different way to get to work today. It was a one-day strike by the city's subway workers. Thousands of maintenance workers, drivers, and station employees walked off the job Sunday night for 24 hours to protest 800 planned job cuts. Transport for London, which runs the Underground, known as the Tube, said that there will be no compulsory layoffs, but just to make sure people got the message, they shut it down. There have been a number of protests in southern Germany, in Stuttgart lately. It's unusual to see Germans protesting, possibly even a little scary. But there was a massive protest on Friday. This was a day after the police attacked a Thursday protest with water cannons. Friday, 100,000 people showed up. They're protesting a $5.5 billion U.S. railway project, which would have the city's railroad station moved underground. It's an eruption of violence which has shocked the country. Chancellor Merkel has called a large number of